Right now, while you are stirring a pot, answering a text, driving to the grocery store, your baby is doing something extraordinary. They are recording you, not like a camera or a memory, something far more permanent. They are encoding you into the actual architecture of their nervous system, into the part of the brain that never forgets, even when the conscious mind grows up and swears it doesn't remember anything before age 5. And what they're recording isn't the big moments, the birthday party, the professional photos. It's the tiny things, the ones you do without thinking, the ones that feel too small to matter. They aren't. Before we go on, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if you're loving this story, subscribe, because tomorrow we have something extra special waiting for you. Number 1. The pace of your footsteps when you walk toward them. When you hear the research behind this one, you might laugh, and then you might never walk into a room the same way again. Babies begin distinguishing between approaching and retreating footsteps as early as 3 months. Before they can see you clearly across a room, before they can call your name, they already know the sound of you coming versus the sound of you leaving. And it's not just whether you're approaching, it's how fast. Studies on infant stress responses have found that babies read a caregiver's pace as critical emotional information. Slow, unhurried footsteps during distress activate the parasympathetic response, the calm, the safety signal. Fast, sharp footsteps trigger the opposite. The amygdala spikes. Cortisol rises. You haven't said a word, you're not even in the room yet. Your footsteps are already telling your baby what's coming, and their brain is already preparing. The pace itself is the first message. Make sure it's the right one. Number 2, whether you narrate the boring parts. Every parent narrates the fun parts. Look at the puppy. Look at the bubbles. Look at the lights. This one is about whether you narrate the completely mundane, unremarkable moments, the ones that feel almost ridiculous to say out loud. Now I'm putting on your left sock, and now the right one. Now we're walking to the kitchen. The kitchen floor is cold today, isn't it? Research from the University of Chicago's Language Development Lab found something that surprised even the scientists running the study. The strongest predictor of language outcomes wasn't the richness of vocabulary in infant-directed speech. It was the consistency of narration across contexts, including the boring ones. Babies whose caregivers talked through unremarkable daily routines, diaper changes, car rides, slow walks to the mailbox, showed stronger neural connectivity between auditory and semantic processing regions by 18 months. Your running commentary on absolutely nothing important is building the architecture of language itself. The boring narration is not boring to your baby. It is the raw material from which they will eventually build thought. Number 3. The sound you make when something goes wrong. Not a crisis. The small, everyday something went wrong sounds. You stub your toe. You spill something. You drop your keys for the 4th time this morning. And you make a sound, a sharp intake of breath, a frustrated exhale, a muttered word, or a laugh. From around 7 months, babies actively study how their caregivers respond to small frustrations. Developmental psychologist Dr. Ross Thompson at UC Davis has described this as the process by which infants begin constructing their own emotional response templates, built from watching the adults around them handle minor adversity. Your baby hears that sound more often than almost anything else because small things go wrong constantly for all of us. If the sound is mostly tense and sharp, their nervous system builds a template. When things don't go as planned, alarm is appropriate. If it's frequently a laugh or a quick reset, they build a different one. Things go sideways, and then you keep going. Number 4. How long you let eye contact last. Most parents instinctively make eye contact with their baby. There is a specific quality of eye contact the research distinguishes as particularly powerful, and it has a name: mutual gaze. Not just looking at your baby, but both of you looking at each other simultaneously in a way you both register as intentional. Studies using near-infrared spectroscopy, a technology that measures brain activity by tracking blood oxygen in real time, found something striking when researchers measured parent and baby brain activity during mutual gaze. Their neural oscillations began to synchronize. Two separate brains, one enormous and one still building itself, started firing in complementary patterns from sustained eye contact alone. The practical implication is simple. When your baby looks at you and waits, do you hold that gaze for a moment? Or does your attention drift within a second or two to something else? Babies who experience frequent, unhurried mutual gaze in the first year show stronger development of the default mode network, the part of the brain tied to self-reflection, empathy, and understanding other people's minds. When you let the eye contact last a little longer than feels strictly necessary, you are building your baby a brain that knows how to connect. Number 5. The temperature of the room when they eat. This sounds too small to matter. It doesn't stay small. The environmental conditions consistently present during the repeated emotionally significant experiences of early infancy, feeding, comfort, sleep, get encoded alongside those experiences in what researchers call contextual memory traces. These are not memories of specific events. They are the sensory baseline of what safe feels like. Ambient temperature, light level, the softness or hardness of a surface, the smell in the air, all of it gets bundled with the emotional memory of being fed and held and cared for. Later in childhood and even in adulthood, environmental cues that match those early traces can trigger feelings of safety or unease that the person cannot explain. It's why certain homes feel immediately comfortable and others don't. Why certain light levels feel like rest and others feel like unease, with no identifiable reason. You are building the sensory definition of home that your baby will carry in their body for the rest of their life. Number 6. Whether you repair after you lose your patience. Every parent loses patience. The question is, what happens in the 15 minutes after? You raised your voice. You were sharp. You put them down with more firmness than you intended. Something snapped, briefly, and now it's over. What you do next is, according to attachment researchers Ed Tronick and Beatrice Beebe, possibly more important for your baby's development than the rupture itself. Tronick's research identified the rupture and repair cycle as a fundamental building block of emotional resilience. Connection is disrupted, and then it is restored. The disruption itself is not the damage. The chronic absence of repair is. Babies who experience disruption followed by genuine repair, a softer voice returning, a calm hold, a return to warmth, develop a nervous system that has been taught through repeated experience that bad moments end, that relationships survive difficulty, that the people who love you can lose their footing and find it again. When you take a breath and return to your baby with softness after you've been hard, you are teaching their entire nervous system how to recover. That is the neurological foundation of resilience, not the absence of hard moments, but the consistent experience of coming back from them. Number 7. The sounds outside your home that they hear regularly. A baby raised near the ocean develops auditory pattern recognition tuned to irregular, rhythmic, broadband noise. A baby raised in a city develops pattern recognition tuned to layered, unpredictable sound environments. A baby raised in a quiet rural house develops pattern recognition tuned to sparse soundscapes with long silences between events. Dr. Nina Kraus at Northwestern's Auditory Neuroscience Laboratory has spent decades studying how the sonic environment of infancy shapes the auditory brainstem, the part of the brain that processes not just sound, but rhythm, pattern, and timing. Her research shows the auditory neural landscape is measurably sculpted by the sounds present in the first year of life in ways that persist decades later. Birdsong, traffic, a neighbor's music, wind, a washing machine, a sibling's laughter from another room, all of it is going in, all of it is building the auditory brain. The particular acoustic fingerprint of your home and your neighborhood is part of what your baby will carry as the sonic definition of the world. Number 8. How you treat other people when your baby is watching. From approximately 10 months of age, babies are not just watching you. They are watching you watch other people, and they are running the data. Research from the Harvard Social Cognitive Development Lab found that infants as young as 12 months make moral evaluations of characters they observe, showing clear preference for individuals who behave helpfully. They are already, in their pre-linguistic way, building a moral map. The most influential input into that map is not what you say about how to treat people. It is what they watch you do. The way you speak to the cashier, the way you respond when someone inconveniences you in traffic, the way you talk about the people in your life when they're not in the room, the small kindnesses you extend or withhold across an ordinary day. Your baby is filing all of it, not as a judgment, but as a definition. This is what people do. This is how the world works. This is what it looks like to be a person. You are the original answer to the question of how a human being should treat other human beings. Number 9. The specific words you use when you talk to yourself. Out loud. We all do it. We just don't think our babies are listening in any meaningful way. You look in the mirror and say something about your appearance. You make a mistake and mutter something under your breath. You struggle with something and the words you use about your own capability come out softly while your baby sits nearby, apparently absorbed in their own business. They are not absorbed in their own business. By 8 months, babies have developed what researchers call social eavesdropping, the capacity to extract emotional information from verbal exchanges they are not the intended audience of. They are listening to how you talk about yourself, filing it in the same category as how you talk about them and how you talk about others. The self-critical monologue that runs through so many of our daily lives is not as private as we think. The emotional tone of that monologue, whether the voice that narrates your inner life is fundamentally kind or fundamentally harsh toward the person it lives with, is part of what your baby is learning about how human beings deserve to be spoken to, including themselves. Number 10. The moment just before you put them down. Not the put down, the moment before. Your baby is in your arms, warm and held and close. You begin the transition toward putting them somewhere else, a crib, a bouncer, a mat, a car seat, and there is a moment, 1 or 2 seconds, sometimes longer, where they are still in your arms, but you have already arrived somewhere else in your head. You are thinking about what comes next. Something in the quality of your hold changes microseconds before the physical transition happens. Babies feel this. Research on what developmental neuroscientists call pre-transition affect, the emotional quality of the moments immediately preceding a caregiver transition, shows that infants as young as 4 months demonstrate measurable changes in heart rate and cortisol levels in response to subtle shifts in caregiver presence before any physical transition has occurred. They feel you leaving before you leave. In the moment just before you put your baby down, staying with them a half second longer than your brain already has, a breath, a small squeeze, a moment of being fully there before you aren't, costs you nothing. The research suggests it deposits something into your baby's felt sense of being held that is disproportionate to how tiny that moment is. It is the last thing they feel from you before the space between you opens. Make it count. None of these 10 things require more time. None require money or becoming a different kind of parent in some sweeping, impossible way. They require awareness, the particular quality of attention that comes from knowing the tiny things are the things that last. Your baby is not waiting for the big moments. They are living in the small ones. Every ordinary minute of your ordinary day is being written quietly and permanently into the person they are becoming. The pace of your footsteps, the sound you make when you drop your keys, the way you hold them in the last second before you let go, it all goes in. It all stays. That's our story. If you enjoyed it, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell. And tomorrow, more stories are waiting for you. Thanks for watching.